Hello, I know you're here today for a free template so you can make cosplay and mecha armor out of EvaFoam, and I have that to give to you. I also have a tutorial so you can make your own template based on your own measurements and your own design so that it actually fits you. And you can do so manually. I'm going to show you how.
My name is EvaFoam, your leader, and I approve of this video.
You may have seen templates for EvaFoam parts having mysterious slits in them that, when glued together, result in beautifully tapered armor. But as our leader says, we come in all sorts of types, shapes, and surprises. There is not a one size that fits in all. Yeah, I'm Old Man Bo. But before we start, you can find some of my templates, including today's, on our leader's Patreon page. That's right, EvaFoam himself has graciously decided to share this and many of our other top secret stencils with his followers. That's you, for free. Be sure to subscribe. We have a helmet stencil, this helmet right here actually. We have that stencil and a tutorial coming out soon. You don't want to miss it. And by subscribing, you won't. Lastly, and before we begin construction, look at this nose. Does it tell you something? Yes, I know. It demonstrates the versatility of aluminum. Pulling up my bra strap over here. It demonstrates the versatility of aluminum, I know. But it also acts as a warning of the hazards of being a mechaneer. I carelessly lost my schnoz because I did not take the proper precautions. But you don't have to. As our leader always says, always prepare and wear your safety gear. I'm talking about eyewear, headwear, nosewear, mouthwear, and skin wear. You can find a link to all the protective wear and every tool we use down below. When you click through to make a purchase, a small percent will go to finance our movement. We are well on our way to creating your custom fit template in easy steps. First, we're going to measure. Then we're going to prepare our material. Third, we're going to define the slits using math. And finally, we're going to plan the taper and cut. Today, we are making a lower arm base armor. But you can follow this tutorial to make any section of armor you want, so long as it's tubular. That's right, you Turtle Ninja fans out there. I'll say it again, tubular.
Totally tubular, dude.
Upper arm, lower arm, upper leg, lower leg, it really doesn't matter. So long as you get good measurements. And good measurements are key. This armor's custom and it requires custom measurements. So measure well. Start by measuring around the top circumference of your lower arm. Then get the lower circumference around your lower arm. It's gonna be different. The third measurement we're gonna need is the length of the armor. You can make a flexible ruler out of all that excess foam from the sides. Check our tips video series here for more tips and tricks. It's very simple really. You just tape together two pieces of foam if you need the extra length, and you measure it with a ruler and make marks. but it's the same thickness and the same flexibility as the material you're going to be using for the armor. So it really gets the job done. Measure a few times and take your time. You're going to put in a lot of work from here on out based on thoughtful measurements. So get it right. Ask yourself these questions as you decide how tight to measure yourself. What will be worn under the armor? Will the armor slip on and off? What is the range of movement needed? How long will the armor be worn? Do your measurements reflect your design? Finally, if the armor is made to be worn by a specific person, for science sake, measure that person. As a rule of thumb, I like to do measurements over tight clothes and add about 1/4 an inch. I also make sure I check my measurements a minimum of 3 times in different positions. You know, hulking out, standing flaccid, because depending on muscle contractions and extensions, you may get different measurements. And be sure to accommodate for all necessary positions. Take it slow, measure right. What looks good? What's functional? What's both? You found it? Make your mark. That's your measurement. Are you confident now with your 3 measurements? Your top circumference, your length, and your bottom circumference? Alright, it's time to put them to paper. Now let's make this armor. It may be hip to be square, but we're going to create a rectangle. You took 3 measurements, but a rectangle requires just 2. We're going to start by using the longer circumference measurement and the length measurement to create our rectangular workspace.
Now square your material to be a straight 90 degrees.
Now that's right, a right angle.
Measure your template material into a rectangle using the longer circumference and the length measurement. Our length is 8 inches and our longer circumference is 13.5.
It's time to make our slits. We will make slits to gradually reduce the width from the wider circumference to the more narrow circumference over the length of the piece. The more slits you make, the more natural your armor will contour, but making too many will result in too many creases to hide.
Oh, nothing. Oh, look at the rain.
Let's do math.
First, we're going to find the difference between the longer and the shorter circumference. It's simple subtraction. In our case, we get a difference of 4 inches. Now, how many slits do you want? We're going to do 4 slits, 1 inch each. If you want a different number of slits, divide the difference by the number of slits you want. There's a calculator available for our leaders' Patreon recognized followers that makes calculating easy peasy.
Mark the center line of each slit and take note. The 4th line is going to be at 0 inches and 13.5 inches. That is to say, the edges of the paper, which will also be slits when the paper is joined.
Now we're going to find the center point of each slit by dividing the longer circumference by the number of slits you want. After you get that measurement, you make your mark. We make a mark every 3 3/8 inch. After we connect the dots, we mark a full inch where their center is the center line. Notice we have 4 slits but only 3 lines. The open edge of the paper represents the 4th slit. So on each edge, we mark a 1/2 inch. Now we repeat up top and we draw our lines. These are the guides for the slits we're going to draw and eventually cut, which will make us some beautifully tapered armor.
Now is the time to consider how dramatic you want the taper to be. The deeper the slit goes, the more gradual and subtle. The shorter the slit, the more dramatic the taper will be.
Now it's time to make your taper. How dramatic do you want it to be? We're going to make it fit the natural contours of my forearm. That means we're going to go 3 inches deep. We draw a guideline and we're ready to go.
Consider how to cut your slits. Straight lines will result in a boxy, more squared off angular appearance. Rounding the edges with cuts like Christmas trees will help create a more rounded look. Personally, I prefer the Christmas tree approach, but it's up to you.
Now we mark our taper cuts to create a gradual transition in the taper. We use the first cutout as a stencil for the rest, but really you could just as easily do it freehand. Now it's time to cut, and this is just straightforward scissor work, so show us your skills. That's some nice scissor work right there, and mega congratulations on your first custom fit armor template. Now let's glue it together.
Evil Ted and other OG EvaFoam armor builders out there have plenty of videos on cutting techniques and tool maintenance, so be sure to check them out. Applying the stencil is straightforward tracing, so just do it and stop procrastinating already. Once you trace your stencil, cut around it and move the excess to the side.
It makes working just so much easier when you have a smaller piece to work with. Are you having fun yet? 'Cause I'm having a blast. If you're not having fun, you just may not have it in you to be a real mechaneer. Now it's time to prepare your tools and your protective gear. Don't forget a mask and to work in a well-ventilated area. Start banding and shaping the foam and get it ready to be glued.
This is another area I'll be brief. Others have come before me and I have mecha to build. So let's not reinvent the wheel. See recommended videos here.
It's time to prepare our rubber cement. Use an old plastic container as a palette, but beware that some plastics will melt when in contact with the rubber cement. I also like to use old foam as an applicator. You can cut it into whatever shape you want. When you apply the rubber cement, just apply a little bit. Squeegee it on with your foam applicator. A little bit goes a long way. Apply it to the open sides and then apply it to each slit. Get in there. Don't be shy. And remember, mecha are not built in a day.
After applying the cement, be patient. The rubber needs time to sit and cure before it will form a really solid bond. I constantly need to remind my staff and interns, patience is indeed a virtue in matters of rubber cement curing.
Let the cement cure for about 6 to 7 minutes. The more patient you are, the easier it'll join. Start by joining the open sides. Look at that. Wow. Look at how easily that bonds. Now finesse it together. Make sure the outer edges meet flush and avoid a lip with smooth, even joining. More finesse to avoid the lip. You're working it up to end. Make sure those end corners meet evenly. And massage the seam together to seal the bond. Repeat that process for each taper slit. You sealed a good deal. Now to finish the job, go over each seam again with a massaging squeeze. Now let's call that a wrap.
Check it out, our work is done. And that's a beautiful fit for really nicely contoured base armor. This is something that works as is or as a base layer for other things to be added to. Make it original by adding additional layers and ornamentation. It fits snugly with or without a fastener, but I'd add a little Velcro or a snap to really hold it in place to avoid snagging or sagging on anything else. If you're having trouble slipping it on and off, don't be discouraged. Shirts have buttons and dresses have zippers. And you could certainly undo a seam a little bit and add a fastener in here. There are simple approaches to opening and refastening EVA armor. Keep in mind your new stencil can be refined. Perhaps you want a little lip added to one side. Just modify this base stencil and you'll be well on your way to create a new EvaFoam armor. I certainly hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe. We have a helmet stencil, this helmet right here actually. We have that stencil and a tutorial coming out soon. You don't want to miss it. And by subscribing, you won't. Lastly, go on over to our leader's Patreon page to download the stencil I created today for free. And while you're there, consider joining me to become a founding follower. A little bit each month goes a long way to fund future tutorials and our leader's anime reviews, reactions, and his mecha revolution of the future. And you can also get access to recognized follower exclusives, including a calculator to make today's template fit you. Signing off from Mecha Construction here in silo number 5, Sass and Crawl, USA. I'll leave you with this. Keep your head up. Look up to our great leader, Mania.
We are growing a movement here. A mecha revolution of the future. The movement Mania. You're welcome, follower, in advance.
The movement of Mania, it grows with you, it grows with us. It grows under our leader.
Yeah, I'm that guy controlling mecha wonders. It's no wonders it's me. My followers' numbers are growing and they see the future is in my hands. Your leader has a key. You cannot spell mecha without me, the MC. My name is Mania, your leader. You're welcome in advance and pleased to meet you. They over there, they don't stand a chance. Tune into YouTube, the Mecha Revolution broadcast.